Hello, and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow and become a better version of yourself. My name is Mark Allen, and together with my friend Adam, we share thoughts and ideas from the books that we read and how they enhance our personal growth and development. We also host other readers and leaders. We learn from their experiences through our discussions. Our episodes air every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening in, and let's grow together. Unbounded Growth. All right, and welcome to Unbounded Growth. My name is Mark Alan Muteba. Happy Tuesday. I'm your host with my friend and co-host, Adam Shabindo. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Adam is joining me online today. We didn't meet in person, so we are trying to see how this is going to work. So apologies in advance if the sound is not coming out as good as it always does. Please give us your feedback. We would like to hear how with this system work and how we can improve this in the future. And we are also recording this on Zoom. After the meeting, we decide whether we want to share the recording or just keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The quality of your video is way better than mine.
It's all right.
Considering that I'm using my PC.
Yeah.
I mean, we might, but yeah, but I wouldn't mind. But you just look way better than me. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I know you had a busy week. You had a busy week of travel. How did that go?
Oh, it was pretty good. I had a very much needed break from from the research mostly, not from everything else, right? Because I was still doing everything else. But as far as research was concerned, I just took a step back. Because the last few weeks haven't been easier, and then I've been just working under a lot of pressure. So I just took a step back to try to reset, and then I visited Chicago and a few other cities up north.
Yeah,
it's nicer over there. It's not 100 degrees, so
it's summer. It's wait
really
until
nice.
Winter comes around.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty nice over there. Yeah, but we traveled there with my brother, and it was just a lot of traveling, and we just got back. So for the past week it was pretty fun. I don't know what about you? How did the week go?
Man, it's amazing. I just want to touch on something that you mentioned that I think is important. You went on vacation from the research, but not on vacation from everything. And I think that's very crucial and very important. Most of the times we go on vacation and then we forget everything that we do. We give up on our routines. We give up on our readings. We give up on our writing. We give up on everything. It's okay to take a break every now and then, but don't take a break from life. Take a break from everything else.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, my week was great. I attended the wedding of one of my very, very good friends. I went to college with him, and we've maintained an amazing relationship. His name is Muhammad Ali, so I always teased on him. He's Indian, by the way. So I always say Muhammad Ali, the greatest. He got married last week. He's an amazing spouse, and just learning about the Arabic and Indian culture was a lot to take on. So on Friday night, Plamidi and I we drove all the way to Houston. And it was a lot of fun. Plamidi and I hadn't driven together for a long distance since our honeymoon. So just doing that together brought a lot of memories. And coming back, they literally had I think 2 parties, one in Houston and one down here. And on Sunday, we went back to Garland, where they had the remainder of the party. It was kind of really great.
Did you go with Adam Blaze?
Yes, on Sunday we did go with Adam Blaze, but on Friday we left him. Yeah, we could. Yeah, he's I don't know. He doesn't like cars, so he literally cry all the way until the vehicle stops, and I wasn't ready to take that for 4 hours. So we left him here with his grandparents, but it was amazing. So we're still talking about the 15 invaluable laws of growth.
Yeah, and just before,
go ahead.
Just 1 second,
Yes,
before
sir.
we jump into it, we just like to announce that this week we are receiving the Bora Scholar.
Amazing.
Our first Bora Scholar. So maybe some pictures gonna be shared through our social media, because we should be picking him up at the airport, I believe, on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
I'm not mistaken. So it's exciting to finally see a young man, a very talented young man, to uh, get the opportunity to come to the United States
Yep.
and to study at some of the biggest institutions in the world, and do project and do his doctorate on a project that has the possibility also of changing the world and
Right.
changing the face of medicine.
Uh,
So it's pretty exciting that to see that.
Absolutely. And I mean, talking just about the Burroughs scholars as well, there's still we got already 4 people. There's still six more spot where you can
Yes.
apply if you want to become a Burroughs scholar and have an opportunity to pursue your PhD, especially if you're coming from Central Africa. One of the things that Bora is trying to do, that we're trying to achieve here, is to change the face of Central Africa. So if you're out there in Central Africa and you want to grab this opportunity, do not hesitate. I mean, it's a full ride scholarship. Well, what else could you ask for? Your school is being paid
Yeah.
for, your research is being paid for. You are being paid to
Everything.
learn. I mean, I'll take that all
Yeah.
day and every day. Yeah. What
Absolutely.
I was saying before we dive into that, and I know we talk a little more about even the Bora camp, vacation camp that is coming in about 10 days for the second part, starting on the 18th, right?
Yeah, it should be starting, I believe, tomorrow, actually.
Oh,
To
tomorrow.
this Yeah, tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow. So you still have one more chance to to reach out and support a kid if you can. You can do that, and that will be amazing. I just wanted to give a shout out to Paul Tambwe. Man, your comments on YouTube have really been encouraging, and thank you so much. I believe he's writing to us all the way from Brazil, and we know the great job that you're doing there, and the book that you're writing about teaching people how to learn languages faster. I think that's definitely one I would like to grab. I'm trying to learn Spanish in my schedule, my busy schedule. I think Spanish is definitely very valuable to me, especially living in Texas. you know and thank you so much for your support and everything that you do out there. And thank you to all the listeners all around the world for everything, the encouragement, the support. This is episode number 10, and I cannot believe that it's been 10 weeks of faithfulness, 10 weeks that we've been together. Thank you so much for your feedback, both in public and private. Well, we appreciate it. Again, we still in our first season. We're planning to have about 15 episodes in our first season. We take a break for about 3 weeks just to evaluate, to take a step back. The law of pausing. We want to pause. We want to reflect. We want to talk to y'all. We want to listen to your feedback. We want to know what you think about this, how we can improve, and as well as we lining up our future guests for the second part, for the second season. We start having some guests, both live and both on the podcast. We're discussing with them some books. We have a lot of surprises. We we don't want to spoil them right now, but we eventually talk about them when the time will be right. And anything else that we had to announce? I know that we talked about the book. We talked about your trips update, which was a lot of fun. It was a long weekend for both of us. And then we also talked about the Borough updates. Now, going into the book, we try to cover maybe 4, maybe 5. I don't know. Well, we see how that we go. We still have about 50 minutes here before we top the hour, and these laws, they are pretty long. So this book is actually, he wrote the same principles in 2 books. The first one was, of course, the 15 invaluable laws of growth. And then he wrote a mini version of the book, which is called How Successful People Grow. The principles are the same, the lessons are the same, but it's a more condensed version of the 15 laws of growth. And last time we stopped at the fifth law. Adam.
Yes, we did. We stop at the law of consistency.
And we,
Motivation gets you going,
Mhm.
discipline
Discipline
keeps you
keeps you
growing.
going. And today we say that we're going to start with the law of the environment. The law of environment. Growth thrives in conductive surroundings. And the subject, I like every single chapter. It starts with a quote, and the quote he gives here said the first step towards success is taken when you refuse to be captive of the environment you first find yourself in. Now, the law of environment is a tricky law. The law of environment, we must say that where you are sometimes determines how far you can grow or how much you can grow. But the twist side to it is that changing your environment alone will not change your life. Changing your environment alone will not put you in a position where you can grow and improve yourself. So, the first thing that John Maxwell talks about here in the law of environment is that if you are always at the head of your class, then you're in the wrong class. Start by being around people that push you to be better and excel. And that's very crucial and important. Environment, the people that you surround yourself with are part of the environment. As a matter of fact, there is a scientific research that has been proven that as far as 90 to 95% of our decisions are determined by the type of people we surround ourselves with. You surround yourselves with people that are very happy and very energetic, are always positive, are always looking out for the best. Guess what? You catch on that. You surround yourself with pessimists, people who are always seeing a problem in every solution. Guess what? You catch on that. So the first thing in your environment is to assess your surrounding.
Yeah. Here, when he talks about the law of environment, he actually talks about a certain principle that that's when I think about it, it actually just bring me to think about modern day America.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot complain. Like John Maxwell shared on this in this part. He started with a story. First of all, he talked about the story of a lady. Her name is Jonetta Maxwell,
Mm-hmm.
who had a terrible upbringing, a terrible environment she grew up in.
Right.
But she didn't let that cripple her
Mm-hmm.
into being basically worthless, if I can
Right.
say.
Mm-hmm.
But she ended up actually getting a PhD afterward, and
Right.
she ended up being like a big shot, right?
And the
After-
big twist about her story is that she didn't get a GED until she was like 30 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she got a GED until 30 years old, and then projecting now on the other hand with John Maxwell, who say that he grew up in a very nurturing family where he grew up around like so much love. He
Mhm.
grew up just getting everything he needed. His dad was a superintendent of like a huge organization, huge
Mhm.
church organization. So very well respected person, very loving family, and that actually had a lot of impact. And if I can just share a little bit of my story there, is that like John C. Maxwell, I also come from almost similar situation where everything that you need, you get it. Everything that you need, get the perfect education, get the best education you can afford, you get it. You would get it. And the thing is that about that, it creates a certain comfort.
Yeah.
It creates a certain comfort, and that comfort most of the time is and again, this is on both the two extreme cases, right?
Right.
When you are in poverty and when you are like in the struggling and all, you get comfortable in the minimalistic way of living life.
Right.
And then when you are, I guess, quote unquote, privileges, as they say, or you have the opportunity, like parents can afford your college tuition and so on, and now you get this great education. You find yourself also getting easily used to that type of environment
And taking that for granted.
And taking that for granted, and then that hinder growth. And that's where he actually comes down to talk about a time of a change, time for a change.
Yeah.
When you realize that's when you realize that you have just become the 100% fruit of your environment. Where in my environment, nobody has ever been to college, and that is the case for a lot of places, a lot of neighborhood in America, where nobody has ever been to college in this particular neighborhood, or every girl get pregnant at 15 in this neighborhood. That's the type of environment. And when John Maxwell here is talking about time for a change, he's saying like, if you are excelling in a certain area, as Mark Allen said, if you're excelling in a certain area, and you just keep on, there's no competition, and or there is no room for growth.
Mhm.
You're just the top, and you are leaving everybody else 10% down
Right.
or behind.
Mhm.
It's time for a change.
Yep.
It's time for you to actually start seeking
Hmm.
for different ways to grow.
And it's so important that you talk about the two different type of upbringing when growing up, and how much that can affect you in so many ways, because the danger in every situation, whether you've grown in a place where you had everything that you needed, or you've grown in a place where you lacked a lot, is the comfort that you find in it. Are you comfortable with where you are? And if you are comfortable, is the comfort allowing you to grow? Are you able to grow in your comfort? And so John Maxwell shares a few steps to actually grow, move out of that in assessing your environment. The first thing he talks about here, he said that we need to assess our environment. Assessing your environment is that, does the current environment you're in promote your growth? If you're in a job that no longer helps you to reach your potential, then it's time to move. One story I want to share is the story of my young brother, Zephose. He was working for a great organization in Eastern Congo, and I value that organization. I value their CEO, and even the work that they're doing, raising leaders for the next generation. But to some extent, that all the work he was doing and everything he was doing, he hit a point where he was no longer growing at his full capacity. We're talking about personal growth and development. We're talking about leadership growth. We're talking about salary growth. We're talking about the comfort. And I remember one time I was talking to him, and he told me, Mark, during Markaland, I've been living in Goma. I was born in Goma. I was raised in Goma. I went to school outside of Goma, came back to Goma to get my first job. I think I'm getting too comfortable with this city that it's no longer allowing me to grow. So Zev started seeking out opportunities outside of Goma and everywhere he could get, so that he can at least expand on his leadership, expand on his personal growth. He went all the way. Thank God he got a job in Kinshasa in Western Congo. He told me it's challenging for me to be here. It's challenging to deal with the traffic every morning. He says I have to be up in the morning at 4 a.m. If I was in Goma, I'll be up 3 hours after 4 a.m. I'll be up at 7 a.m. and still be on time at work. And moving to a different city, moving to a place where he's not familiar, is not comfortable, has allowed him to grow to a certain extent, because he told me that now I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I have a whole routine set up. I know when my breakfast needs to be ready. I know when I need to do my prayers, to do my reading, to do my thinking, to do my planning before going to work. And the time of transit, the time that I'm taking to get to work, allows me to listen to podcasts, to listen to preachings, to allows me to grow every day. And he said I could not have found this if I stayed in my comfort in Goma. So it's very important to assess your current environment. The first step to change, to growth, is change. Until you accept to change, you won't grow. And maybe for you, it may not just be necessarily changing your city or changing your job or changing whatever. Sometimes it's even just changing the way you do things, the way you approach things, the way you learn, the way you devote yourself to your work. Now, the question that we want to ask you today is: does your current environment promote your growth, or does it hinder your growth? And the second one John Maxwell talks about here is change yourself and change your environment.
Yeah, it becomes very important to change yourself
Mhm.
and to change your environment.
Yeah.
John Maxwell put a few things down when he talks about assessing your environments.
Mhm.
He actually kind of like just pick on the a little bit on the law of intentionality,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
in this case here, that I feel like kind of when it comes to the principles of growth, the law of intentionality, this is just kind of my own, I guess, deduction from reading the entire book and reading it over again.
Mhm.
Is just the law of intentionality tends to be the
Covers it
most
all.
important law,
Like, yeah,
because
in
it
every
covers
single chapter,
everything.
it comes back.
Yeah, Because when you are not intentional, when you are not doing things by choice, because change or growth, in this case, because growth is often associated with change, but change, which in this case is can be associated with growth, goes with a choice. It goes with I decide to change. I'm not just sitting around and wait for change to happen to me.
And that almost never happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be the one who is actually putting the action into the change. And in that case, he's talking about assessing, doing an assessment of your environment.
Right.
Look at people around you to try to see, it's not, there's one thing that I think in this one, I think I read it in, I believe in the book, Asking Powerful Questions, where he's talking about the idea of judging. Yeah, you say that we tend to naturally just judge people by just looking at them.
Yep. Everybody does it.
Now, I will bring this question in your environment. When you look around people around you, what type of judgments can you have on them directly? I'm not talking about stereotypes. I'm not talking about negative effect that other people put on that group of people specifically. What are your judgments of your environment? Now, if you can answer that question, it can help you assess
your current environment.
The environment, and that's when you can actually now make a choice. Should I change my environment, or what can I do to actually make my environment better for my growth?
All right, yeah, that's very important. Can you change your environment, or can you make your environment to better your growth? Sometimes you're just in the right environment, but you are not taking advantage of that environment to actually better your growth. Now, a few points here that I want to mention quickly before we move to the other law. I think that would be number 7. It says change yourself and change yourself and your environment. It says if you change yourself but you do not change your environment, growth will be slow and difficult. And that's only when you are in a bad environment. If you're in a good environment, you do not need to change your environment. The second thing, it says that if you change your environment but you do not change yourself, growth will be slow and less difficult. Finally, it says that if you change your environment and yourself, growth will be faster and you'll be more successful. And in the case in which John Maxwell was talking here was that, he had to relocate from a city where he was assigned as a pastor to a different city, not only to promote himself as a person, not only to grow himself as a person, but to also grow an organization, to be in a larger place. I'll give you an example. If you want to grow an organization in a city where there's only 100 people, there's only 100 people that you can affect. If you want to affect 1,000 people or 10,000 people, you need to move to a city where there's 10,000 people that you can actually reach out to. And John Maxwell has had this amazing life where at some point he even had to relocate his whole company. He had to relocate it from a city to another city just to foster the impact. I was finishing up the book of T.D. Jakes, Soar, where I think we talked about this, where it talks about the importance of learning how to launch your business in a place where it works. Sometimes your great idea may not work for your current environment. Sometimes your great business, if you just move it to another neighborhood or if you just move it to the city right next to you, can thrive a lot much better than it can in your current environment. The third thing, which I believe it relates to people personally, is change whom you spend time with. We cannot overemphasize that. And I think we've talked about this when we talked about the 12 pillars. We talked about this when we talked about the art of influence. We talked about this when we talked about Eat That Frog. Change whom you spend your time with. The reason why that's so crucial and so important is because who you spend your time with directly affect the way you think. And what you think, the reality with your thought is that your thought crystallizes into action. And your action dictates your life. You start pausing some action, you start making some choices, and eventually all those actions and everything that you do will start dictating the type of life that you have. So you want to change today? Start spending time with people that will actually help you to grow and become better. Adam?
Yes. Here there's a point that John C. Maxwell talks about, and I believe he's just talking about some research that was done
By
at
David?
Harvard in this case,
Mm-hmm.
by David McLean,
Mm-hmm.
McLean.
Mm-hmm.
He said that according to research by social psychologist Dr. David McLean of Harvard, the people with whom you habitually associate are called your reference group.
Mm.
This is a very strong use of vocabulary here.
Mm.
The people which you associate to, they are called your reference group.
Mm.
And what do they say?
So in other words, people can refer to you by just looking at the people around you.
Yes, yes. But people around you, there's no magic in this one. And then I just said it earlier that we all tend to judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they will judge your group. They will judge you based on the people around you.
Mm.
And he said that becomes a reference group. They refer to that group, or when they see you, they see the people around you.
Mm.
Or when they see the people around you, they directly see you, because that's the point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
And he continues, says, and these determine as much as 95% of your success or failure in life.
Mm.
We tend to take these things so lightly. The people we hang out with, we will not stop emphasizing on this, because it's very important. If you hang out with thieves, you become a thief. It's as simple as that. You know what they say, like the bird of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and it's the law of nature. It's the law of identification, as he says here. Reference group. A reference group it's an identity that you tend to have based on the type of people that you hang out with.
And that's so crucial that you're talking about identity, because I know I've had this question twisted in so many different ways when people say, so we shouldn't spend time with poor people, we should spend time with people, who are not the same social rank of us. No, that's not what we're saying. What we are saying is, what type of influence do the people you spend time with have on you? If you're spending time with drug addicts to help them recover from their addiction, you're not doing anything wrong. You are helping them. You are influencing them. But if drug addicts start influencing you into abusing drugs, guess what? Then you need to change your environment. So it's important to really talk about that, like Adam mentioned, the identity. How do you identify with the people that you spend time with? And sometimes it's just so crucial to choose new people that you can spend time with, people that can challenge you, people that can tell you the truth. I realize that a lot of us, one of the biggest problems we have in this generation, we are in the support, follow type of generation. We're in a generation where we want to spread more positive energy, where we want to spread more positive love, whatever positive energy means anyways. We want to spread more positive love, more positive vibes, and whatever that means, I don't know. But we don't want to tell people the truth when they're doing something wrong. And you want to find yourself in an environment where people are free to express themselves to you. People are free to tell you, hey, Adam, what you're doing is not right. Adam, what you said last time was not right. Adam, what you did in this city or to that person, to that man, the way you talked to that man was not right. Not only people who are cheering on you and supporting on you, but also people that can support you by telling you the truth. The next point that John Maxwell makes here is change yourself in the new environment. He has a few questions here that I think I'll just brush over them and ask them as we go. He said, when you get into an environment, ask yourself, what are the strengths of the people around me? What are they learning now? What do I need from them right now? And whom have they met? What have they read that I need to read, and who have they met that I need to meet. Because sometimes one encounter can change your life completely. So try to network as much as you can. Try to reach out to people as much as you can and spread love. Don't be the type of person who says, well, I cannot talk to this person on the street. I cannot reach that person because of their skin color or their beliefs or whatever they're in. At some point, I think Adam and I had this discussion where we both realized, I think Adam was sharing with me the experience. I was like, man, I realized one thing: I cannot change anybody. When he was still talking about his relationship and things of that nature, I was like, yeah, I think that's a very valuable lesson, because we don't have the power to change people. People change because they choose to change. We can influence them into changing, but you cannot change anybody without their approval. At some point, they have to give, unless you coerce your force on them and they fake it until they make it. But be careful about the type of people that you spend time with, but also assess what are the people reading, who have they met, what are the type of the things that they spend their time on.
Yeah, in this fourth point here, when you say change yourself in your new environment, one thing that I would take as a quick example is the transition from coming to a French-speaking country to America, which is an English-speaking country, where the culture is completely different. The lifestyle is different. In general, just things are completely very different. One of the things that people struggle with a lot in this country is the fact that I came from a French-speaking country. I was the top student in my promotion, which means, let's say, I was valedictorian in the Congo. And in the French-speaking system, the exams were different. Everything is completely different. And now you're here because of all the changes you have to encounter or you have to try to adapt to. You are used to a certain way of thinking. You are used to a certain way of doing things. And probably you were excelling in your previous environment just because you were already just number one and everybody else is 10% down. So you did not have the type of competition that you have here. But now you find yourself, okay, only, let's say, in a program where only the top 10% of the school are there. Now you were really high from where you're coming from. And now here, you are an average person or even below average. And you find yourself in that environment. And one of the ways that we have been more or less successful to adapt to this system is to actually try to not to just blend in, because when people say blend in, they usually put aside or they try to remove the fact that they have a history and they had a previous life that they were living in and in previous environments they come from. But we try actually to assimilate some of the knowledge or some of the values and some of the things that are important for these new environments that we are in. And the sooner we figure that out, and that is start by what? People who, and I'm talking to people who are just immigrants in America, and immigrants, that mean they are not students, because students, you are forced to actually know the language, you are forced to go through school in America, you are forced to go through everything. But people who did not have all that pressure behind them. In this case, you will see the first thing that's you change or that you try to challenge yourself with is learning the language. And that's created new adaptability to the new environment that you are trying to grow in. And it just starts from there. You change, you start speaking the language better. You assimilate some of the cultures. I mean, you start celebrating Thanksgiving and get a turkey and so on. And and slowly but surely, you're now able to adapt into this new environment. And after you've adapted into the new environment, because you've set your priorities, right? I want to learn the language. I want to get a better education in America. This is the new environment. I don't live based off of history.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen so many immigrants in America telling you that, yeah, like, man, like today, I used to be rich.
Mm.
Actually, it's a say, and this is something, especially within the Congolese community, that I've kind of just trying to push against.
Mm-hmm.
You see that all, like not all, like nearly most parents, immigrant parents, and by immigrant parents, I'm talking mostly about Congolese, and I think most other immigrants, it's also the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They will go with the mentality telling their kids that, well, I had to leave. I mean, I used to be rich. I used to make good money. I used to have a very good life, but I had to leave all of that because of you, or I had to come to America and be miserable, so I can give my family a better life, which is not a bad concept per se. But what I'm also claiming is that you don't have to be in America and live a miserable life. You can be coming from where you came from, regardless of your age in this case. You can be coming from where you came from and come to this country and make an impact, make a difference, and not putting the pressure on the kids to feel like, oh yeah, if we are not doing better, or if to do better is a good thing.
Right.
But if anything, they have no right to even make mistakes in life, because they just live under this constant pressure in the pressure cooker to produce successful results.
And I've talked to a lot of immigrants, kids from immigrants. Even when parents have had kids here, they still struggle with that concept, because sometimes I think it's a cultural thing. It's also at the same time a generational thing, the way people in the past perceive things. But I think the takeaway here is whenever you get yourself in a new environment, assess your environment, learn your environment, learn the culture of the people, learn the language of the people. And that is not only regarding immigration, that also goes as far as regarding jobs, regarding new cities, regarding a new business. Even in new businesses, if you launch yourself into a new business, learn the language of the business. If you want to grow into that business, learn what type of people, what type of people those people meet, what type of meetings those people go to. And I know people have a lot of opinion, or maybe a lot of things to say about networking business, but some people actually make it into the networking business. Some people become very wealthy, and the reason is simple: they learn how the system works. And for most of us who haven't actually made anything in it, and we started 2 weeks later, we quit. It's just like, yeah, this is not for me. It's because we want something quick. We want something that will be solved tomorrow, and that most of the times doesn't work. In immigration, it doesn't work. In personal development, it doesn't work. Even when you're switching jobs or career. Moving on to the next one, he mentioned something here. We talk about it when we talk about another one of his books. It's called Make Today Count. And he talks about this here. Say, make the most out of today. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow is yet to come. All you have is today, and make the most out of it. And the last point that he talks about here, and I think this is something that that I personally that struggle with a lot, is moving forward despite criticism. When you're trying to change will always create action. When you try to change, you start making some action, and actions will always bring criticism to you. A lot of people in your environment, I always like to, I think Zig Ziglar talks about it. He say, if you put a bunch of crabs in a jar and you open the top, none of them is getting out, because every time one crab try to crawl to the top, others will pull him down. And a lot of times when you're in a certain environment and you're trying to crawl out of that environment, let's say for example that you decide to go to school, or you decide to quit school, because I know some people definitely need to quit school. They've been in school for so long, they've been going degree after degree, and sometimes like, okay, what are you trying to pursue again? But some people that need to better their education, and that may not necessarily mean going to college. That may mean go to a technical school. That may mean go to a boot camp. And most of the times, the people that you've been with in the same environment doing the same thing will either pressure you to stay in it, pressure you to become better, or pressure you to stay in a state of mediocrity. And it's very important because criticism will always be part of life. So learn, the quicker you move away from criticism, the quicker you move away from what people are saying. People will always speak, and that may not that does not have the power to change who you are. If people today start calling me names, it doesn't change who I am. So don't let the criticism of people, your parents, your family, or whoever it may be, that is bringing positive criticism is great, and all of us need it. But people who are criticizing you in order to discourage you, sometimes you just learn to treat it as market noise. If you've never been to Africa, or one of those, maybe I think there's one of them in Grand Prairie. I forgot what they call it. There's this open market system in Grand Prairie where you pretty much come and buy stuff at will, and you know if you've never been in a place like that, market noise, in the noise there's a lot of market. Everybody's trying to sell something. Thieves are trying to steal. Mothers are trying to make a living. Officers are trying to do their job. And there's a lot of noise. And sometimes you need to go past that noise to reach your point and to reach to wherever you want to be. One point John Maxwell mentions here, which I think is very crucial and important, they say if you don't try to create the future you want, you must endure the future you get. And if you don't have a plan for your life, guess what? You're going to fall into somebody else's plan. That's what Jim Rohn used to say. And guess what they plan for you? Not much. So learn to move past the noise and continue to make a plan for your life. Adam, anything before we move on to the law of design?
Yeah, it is very important because people always criticize. That is something that you, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to personal development, and sometimes the people who are criticizing, they are so important people in your life. So when I talk about people criticizing, I'm not just talking about your neighbors or somebody outside or somebody online. I'm talking about your father, your dad, telling you that, yeah, no, you probably won't make it. That is not worth it. It's not worth the while. Or just discouraging you in as many ways as they can. And that can come within like around your place. So you have to actually be able to overcome those type of things and have a purpose, have a vision, have a goal. There is something actually that he had mentioned even earlier in the book where he's talking about when he was, I think it was the point number 2, that's like change yourself and your environment. He was talking about that you have to create the right air to breathe in. You have to answer the question, what keeps me alive? What purpose? What's the purpose? So one of the things that will help you here rise above the noise and the critics is the purpose you have.
Yep, that's very important.
So if that critics or if that noise, it's something that's going to help in your overall process or in the overall growth, then it becomes something that I guess the English speaking people call constructive criticism. And that is a very important part of growth because that is also called feedback.
And that's crucial that you mentioned about constructive criticism. And I think we talk about that a little later when he talks about attitude. How do you respond to what is being said to you? Because here's the reality. Some people may criticize you just to really discourage you. But sometimes in the critics that people have, there may be some truth. And one of my mentors, he always told me, when criticism is brought to you, this is what I want you to do. Listen to it. And check, do a personal evaluation. What this person is saying, is it true? Yeah, if it's true, simply because it's coming from that person doesn't make it false or doesn't make it true. Is what the person is saying true? If what the person is saying true, the second question is, am I aware of it? If you're aware that, okay, this person is saying, for example, that Mark Allen, you speak too much. Okay, I'm already aware that I speak too much. Yes, I'm aware of it. Am I aware of it? Yes, I'm working on it. Then I shouldn't bother with it. If I'm not aware of it, then the person is making me aware of something that I've never thought about. But if the person is just bringing a criticism just to for the sake of it, then you can ignore it. But never just reject all the criticism just for the sake of it when the person who's criticizing you may actually be making a very positive and important. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for sharing that. The next law here it talks about is the law of design, and I think this should be law number 8, 7 or 8, Adam. 8, right?
This is 8,
Law
yes.
number 8, the law of design. The way I put my note, I had it like S4. I was like, nah, this can be 4. The law of design. The law of design, to maximize your growth, you need to develop strategies. If you don't, Jim Rohn used to say, and I think I quoted this just a minute ago, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are that you will fall in someone else's plan. And guess what? They may have planned for you. Not much. It's important to live your life by design. I would like to share the experience that I started doing a few years ago. I started waking up in the morning, my routine of journaling and just writing down things. And I used to call that time, it was about 10 to 15 minutes. Every morning, I used to call it a life by design. What I used to do within those 15 minutes, I asked myself 3 or 4 questions. If money was not a problem, if time was not a problem, if skills were not a problem, and if location was not a problem, how would I like to live my life? And I'll start writing. I'll let my imagination go. I will think about everything that I could imagine. This podcast was a fruit of that time, the life by design. I said to myself, well, one day I'd like to do A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And over the years, a few things kept on coming back. Things like public speaking, things like leadership, things like, helping people and things of that nature. And eventually, I started seeing those stuff coming in my life. Now, I want to be very careful about what I say here. It did not just happen because I was thinking about it a lot or because I was writing about it. No. Eventually, I had to learn. I had to educate myself about a few things that I was doing. I had to learn a few industry. I had to learn coding. I had to go to college. I had to encourage things. But the reality is that everything started with a desire. Everything started with my thoughts, the way my thoughts were being controlled, because the way you think eventually pours down in the way you act. You think in a certain way, eventually you start acting that way. And of course, you need to educate yourself. Today people are talking about the law of attraction. And I think there's a lot of misconception about the law of attraction. I think we talked about it when we talked about the art of influence. They say, well, claim it, you're attractive, think about it, you're attractive. It doesn't work. It doesn't always work that way. You need sometimes to change. You need to adapt. You need to learn. And the people who have made it to a certain level, the people who are doing the things that they want to do and maybe telling you about this, sometimes will not tell you the struggle that they went through to get to where they are. So things like that would be, but it all starts with the way you design your life.
Yes. The this to me again, I'm a little bit biased also about this law. I'm an engineer by training.
Yep.
Engineers are known as designers. Sometimes we get confused with artists who actually make art or design things.
Right.
As we just look at what are the dynamics, what are the mechanics behind everything moving.
Yep.
What actually define the motion? Can we control that motion? And that is. And if you read him here, you can actually make a translation into an engineering world. There is a book that I've been trying to write for quite a while now. It's called Thinking Like an Engineer in All Aspects of Life. So, and the law of design really just fits in over there. I'm going to give a quick example. For example, I had a professor in college for my mechanics of material class. And he was telling us about basically there's something called the stress and strain curve. And on a stress and strain curve, it has a growth get a certain point, it reaches a plateau where you can, regardless of any amount of force that you can increase or you can add your strain, your material regardless of zero forces added, your material keep on getting strained.
Right.
Even as you unload, you keep on just getting deformed and you keep on getting result. And he would compare that type of thing to a daily life activity, for example, like getting married or stuff like that. And just to bring down the relevance of this, that becomes a strategy or a way to communicate a certain topic that is very complex and very complicated into something that will be easier to understand and to know. And that's the law of design in other terms. It's basically creating and developing strategies and different methods in such a way that you can control the outcome of that. Like, for example, the AC in our house. It is conceived, it's designed in such a way that whenever we put the set points, the machinery gonna all work in our favor. The entire system, the entire machinery gonna work in our favor in such a way that it hits that set temperature that you put there. And that's, again, the law of design. And personally, that's the way I've been, I've just been living my life. It has made my life simpler to just be able to think about my PhD, what I wanted to do with my PhD. I knew that about 3-4 years ago. I knew I had the top schools for my program. I had all of those details. I designed a plan for myself. And of course, it won't always be 100% accurate or 100% working.
Let me make a point to that.
Just
Adam.
the fact that you actually,
Let me make a point to that. It won't always work 100%. That's for sure. But I heard this saying to just to add to what you're saying is that you have more chances of hitting a goal you have than hitting a goal you do not have.
Yeah, and it's what actually John Maxwell here talk about glancing backward, planning forward. It's based on the experience, based on the small knowledge that I actually have from the previous thing that worked and didn't work.
Right.
Why don't I design? Why don't I control the future outcome? And it's in engineering, that's actually the basic, that's the foundation of engineering. Based on what has already been observed, how do I engineer something? How do I design something that's gonna guarantee my outcome with something in engineering that we call a probability of failure? And a lot of systems in engineering comes up with a probability of failure of 0.1%. A lot of things. That's mean, and the probability of failure, the opposite of probability of failure, it's called something called reliability. In probabilistic design, when we talk about reliability, is that you have designed your system in such a way that at 99.99% chances, it would work. And the 0.001% is when you did not have a full control or any control. So a well-designed system, a well-designed life, it's when you can use your past experiences to engineer and create a method or a new technique, a new model in such a way that it guarantees success. And that goes on in every aspect of your life. That goes on for business. That goes on for relationships, anything that you can think of. It's directly, it's somehow based or linked with the principle or with the law of design.
Mm-hmm.
There is I'm gonna quote here real quick. Is he shared a life lesson,
Mm-hmm.
life lessons. Like when he's saying that you should learn from life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
He said most people allow their lives to simply happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
They float along, they wait, they react, and by the time a large portion of their life is behind them,
Mm-hmm.
they realize they should have been more proactive and strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again what I just said. Making a sneak peek, looking in the back,
Mm-hmm.
looking at okay, what all has happened this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, can I design a reliable plan
Mm-hmm.
or a reliable system
Mm.
for my growth that's going to actually guarantee
Mm.
to the 99.99% chances of success.
And talking about that, life is definitely a lot more complicated than engineering. There's no, if there's one single formula. One thing I like about engineering, also my background training is also in engineering. One thing I like about engineering is precision. Precision to an extent where 1+1 is 1+1. There's no way you can go besides that. Life is, on the other hand, is like a philosophy. There are certain things that you can apply to 100% and may not work for you, and apply other principles. There's always those outlier. That's why, as Adam is saying, using your past experiences, what has worked, what continually works, and which comes to another point which is very important, even in engineering. The reason why engineers are able to design system in such a way is because they are educated about it. They've done their research, they've collected the data, they know exactly how those things work, and which brings to an important point in our personal lives, is learning to educate ourselves about ourselves. Learning to educate yourself, for example, about what motivates you, what makes you sing, what makes you cry, what drives you, where are your passions. And sometimes, some people have the grace to discover that I've seen people who knew what they wanted to do with their lives when they're 5 years old. They were 5 years old. They say, yes, when I grow up, I want to be ABCD. And 30 years later, they are doing what they dreamt about when they're 5 years old. I cannot tell you how many times my dream switched from the time I was 5 years old to the time I was 26 or 27. Even after college, I still hadn't decided completely if I wanted to be an engineer for life. And today I figured out I definitely want to have the engineering knowledge, but I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't know if I want to be 65 and still be programming. I don't know if I want to do that. The question is not if you have it all figured out, because sometimes we may feel under pressure that if I don't have my life figured out by 25, I'm a failure. That's not true. That's not true. Someone like General Sanders, he had his life figured out at 65, created chicken, whatever it's called, And I know it's not KFC. I don't like it. No offense to people who like KFC. It's just too greasy for my life, But he figured that out at the age of 60. And it's okay sometimes not to figure out. What is not okay is not trying. What is not okay is saying that because I haven't figured out my life by the age of 25, then I'm just going to let my life happen to me. No, you can start today by planning your tomorrow. Let's start today by saying, okay, this is what I want to do tomorrow. I want to do A, B, C, D tomorrow. You don't need to think about what you're going to do next week. You don't need to think about what you're going to do next year. Think about what you can do tomorrow. And eventually when you get tomorrow, you think about Thursday, you think about Saturday, you think about Sunday. And that's how you start planning. When I started using a personal agenda to plan my days, I couldn't plan past 4 hours. I could only see the next 4 hours. But today, I was laughing at it with Plamedi last week. We were planning a dinner with a couple last month. And we're planning the dinner like a month in advance. And Plamedi was telling me, man, this couple that mentors, I say, this couple literally needs to have a calendar in front of them before making any appointment. I told her yes, because their life are so structured and organized that they are always making consistent changes. So If you start today by planning your next hour, just write down, this is what I'm going to do, A, B, C, D. Like Adam was sharing with us last time, just having a post note on your desk saying, this week, these are the things that I'm trying to accomplish, will actually help you. And eventually, you start channeling your passion, you start channeling your purpose, you start channeling the things that you actually love to do, and eventually, you get there. John Maxwell makes a statement here, and I think after this we probably move to the next floor. I'll just cite the point. You can check them in the book, and Adam will probably add something here. He said that life is very simple. Keeping it that way is difficult. Being disciplined is not easy. But the only way you keep your life simple is by doing the things that are not easy, that are not comfortable. The second thing, it says that designing your life is more important than designing your careers. One of the quotes here that I think I've read it from another one of his book is that most of us spend most more time planning our vacations than we do spend time planning our lives. If we just invested enough time to plan the things that we love, like vacation, like playing with kids, like all things of that nature, as if we just spend enough time of that, as well as enough time planning our lives and the things that we would like to do, actually doing some soul search, understanding what drives us, our motivation, we could actually achieve much more than than we would if we do not plan it. The other thing that John Maxwell says here, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only live once, but if you work it right, once is enough. The two other points that he makes in this law here.
And just
Go ahead.
before we pass from there, there's actually a quote that I would like to read when he says that life is not a rehearsal. He said, there is no warm up for life.
Yep. You get one shot at
No
it.
dress rehearsal. Yet, that's the way many people seem to be treating it. Each of us goes on stage cold with no preparation, and we have to figure it out as we go along. That can be messy. We fail, we make mistakes, but we still need to give it our best from the very start. I'm going quick, just a quick. It's not really an anecdote, but it's just a quick experience. I took a very advanced class in fluid mechanics in college. It was by one of the top fluid dynamists actually in the world. His name is Dr. Hussein. Dr. Hussein he's at Texas Tech University. Dr. Hussein gave us an exam. He gave us 3 hours for an exam that will normally take 10 hours to do. He gave us only 3. So we were all ready, we prepared, because one of those fluid equations to derive, it's like 16 page long. So you can imagine that we need 16 page to be writing actually for 16 page. And at the end, so we started taking the exam, and of course we were challenged. We tried to fit everything. And that was just, we have 4 more questions to go. So you try to fit everything in 3 hours, and you actually need 10 hours to solve the exam. And the day he's correcting the exam, and we are all complaining about it, we're telling him that this is not fair. He told us this: imagine you are on a spacecraft. You are going out of space. You are the chief engineer on that spacecraft. And now they just told you that we are losing pressure. Losing pressure means that the spacecraft is going to drop in the free fall from whatever place it is. Now think about it. Are you going to tell them that, okay, I need 10 hours instead of 3 hours? Are you going to find a solution to get that going, to create that, so that's to solve that problem, and with the shortest notice possible? So that is that in this case here is that we don't get to warm up, we don't get to prepare. We just have to take it as it comes
And move with it.
move forward.
Absolutely, and I think that's very important. And it's amazing what type of creativity the brain can come up with when when we are under pressure. And exercising ourselves to put ourselves under pressure naturally is important. Like put some pressure on yourself before life start putting pressure on you. The last two things that he mentions here, and I know we already crossed the top of the hour. We get into one more law, and then we let you go for today. One more thing he mentions here is that in planning, multiply everything by two. Make sure that you always plan for unexpected. Don't make plans for for just what you have. Don't If you have something to complete in an hour, give it 2 hours. And especially when it comes to growth and personal development, and even when it comes to leadership, it's important to plan in advance because a lot of things take more time than the than we think. The last thing he talks about here, and I think we talk about it a little bit more in the future, is develop a strategy and depend on a system. Because our lives, and I think we talked about it last time, by the time we are 30, we are no longer using our brain as much as we do before, between the age of 0 to 25, 26 age. The reason is because we have created these systems in our lives, and we kind of live on a pattern. I'll tell you, for example, one of the systems that we've created for ourselves that you may not realize. What is the first thing you do when you wake up? Check your phone. At least I know 95% of the people listening to this podcast, the first thing they do when they do wake up is check their phones, check their notifications, check their messages, check that. Who has taught you to do that? Yourself. And if you want to design your life in such as you adapt the habit of success, in such as you adapt, if you want to keep your weight under control, if you want to keep your health under control, then you learn the habits that help you keep that under control. And that's why it's important to design and develop strategy and depend on system. And I think we talk about it more when we talk about atomic habits or the tiny habits. What are the habits that you can start developing today so that your life may follow the pattern that you want it to follow? Because the reality is that you don't choose the consequences of your action. You choose your action. The consequences are just a result of the choices that you make. So every time, I like this saying in English that when you pick one end of the stick, you pick the other end at the same time. So if you want to change the result, if you want to change what you are seeing, change what you are doing, change the action so you can change the reaction.
And he quotes he quotes Michael Gerber here in the E-Myth. He says, systems permit ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results predictably. However, without a system, even extraordinary people find it difficult to predictably achieve even ordinary results. And I totally agree with that. I also do agree with that. Think about a simple thing that you can actually apply. And I read that in this book, and I didn't think that I was already doing it. Is the fact that if we are two people going to Walmart, and actually today lines at Walmart were surprisingly just too long. And actually every grocery store I went to, actually it was just way too long. And what I did is I was with a few young men that I mentor. We were just getting a few supplies. I actually put a different person in each line in such a way that if that line is moving faster and we are already closer than this other line, we are all moving all our stuff there. Right. It's called efficiency. And that's why we design systems. That's why we design cycles. That's why we design things to operate faster. Why? Because having just one thing that we try to think that is going to produce all the solutions we want is different than having 10 things combined together in a network to produce results.
Absolutely. And
creating a system is probably the best thing that ever happened to the world. Systems are the best things that ever happened to the world.
And I mean, I was just saying that, that goes along the way of efficiency. It says a lot about delegation. It says a lot about what are the things that you can do to help you work faster, work better, and do the things that you need to do. Even like when we talk about reading a book a week, you need to create a system around that in order for you to achieve that. Now, the last law we're going to talk about today, and we try maybe in the next episode or the next 2 episodes to finish up this book. I know there's a lot more books that we wanna talk about, but we're not in a hurry. We're going slowly and making sure that we learn all the lessons that we can learn from here. Now, this law is an interesting one. The law of pain. Here's the reality: growth is painful. When Adam Blaze was born, the doctors, that's one of the benefits I like about this country. I've never had any kids outside of this country, so I don't know how it works, how well it works in other countries. But the doctors usually they give you a lot of heads up, and today we have Dr. Google that will tell you a lot. Why is my kids crying at 2:32 in the morning? Google, someone will tell you something about it. But the doctor actually gave us a lot of information, and there's one thing they gave us some heads up when we went for his fourth week appointment. They told us between week 6 and week 8, kids go through this thing is called growth spurt. It's like their body grows a lot more between week 6 and week 8 than it does between week 1 and week 4. I don't know how it happens. Their organs grow, their body grow, they start eating more, they start doing certain things. And because of that, kids become fussy because it's painful. It's not something that their body enjoys. So they'll be fussy, they'll cry a lot, and we experienced that. And they told us it happened, I think, twice, and then between week 12 and something again. And even when they grow up a little older, when they become teenagers, there's a lot of changes that happen when you go from 11 to 12. For men, your voice start deepening, you start growing some beards. From women, you start growing braids, you start having periods and things of that nature. And that change is usually not very comfortable. And that's what change is: the law of pain. Learning to embrace pain. Pain, John Maxwell says that it helps us face who we are. When you go through a painful experience, sometimes it pushes you to question a lot of the things that you do, a lot of things that you've always done, a lot of things that you believe that, I'm good with this, I know how to do this. But when you go through a painful experience, sometimes it helps you sit back and think, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I'm not, maybe I still have some more things to learn. And pain usually comes through bad experiences. And John Maxwell says a few things about bad experiences. He said that bad experiences, there are a few things he said he learned about bad experiences. And Adam, I don't know if before we jump to that, did you have anything to say in between the introduction and the bad experiences that John Maxwell talks about?
Yeah, and in this case here, and just kind of to push, he talked about something called pain unimaginable, something that you cannot really experience. And he's talking about the story of Cheryl. Cheryl, who was the wife of the pilots, one of the pilots in 9/11.
Yes.
Who was leading the plane in 9/11, and how she kissed her husband goodbye in the morning.
Yeah.
And then just to hear that she would never see him again, and that he had exploded in an airplane, and he would never even get a body to bury. So, and the transformation, how she used that pain now to actually bring a message of hope and to use that to go change the world. And to just and as you were already talking about bad experiences, he said here in our quote, he said, "I've never known anyone who said I love problems." But I've known many who have admitted that their greatest gains came in the middle of their pain.
And John Maxwell,
it's something that I usually call taking the ridiculous and transforming it into the sublime.
That's very, very, very crucial, Adam, that you mentioned that. One of my favorite scripture as a Christian in the Bible, I love Romans 8:28, and I think this has helped me a lot to take life easy, to look at life on the positive side of things whenever experiences are painful. Apostle Paul says to the Romans that we know that all things work together for good, and I always choose to look at my painful and bad experience as things that are cooperating and working together to actually do me good. And a lot of times, so a lot of times you don't see it right away. A lot of times you go through a bad experience, you don't see the value of that of that bad experience right away. But if you keep your perspective, if you keep a good attitude, a positive attitude, you eventually start learning the lesson from that bad experience. I like to tell people that there are no bad days. There are good days and there are great days. That's the way I choose to look at life. A bad experience to me is a good day. A great experience to me is a great day. And John Maxwell says a few things about bad experiences. The first one is that everybody has them. And there's a quote he makes here that's actually I thought was funny that I'd like to share. He said, I try to take one day at a time. I try to take one day at a time. But lately, several days have been attacking me at once. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where it's like, man, I used to make this joke in college where people are like, hey, Mark, so you in engineering school? I was like, yeah, I'm in engineering school. And say, you love it? I say, love. I say, are you good with math? I'm like, I don't think I'm great with math, but I love math. Say, oh, that's good. That's a good start. But I'll always tell them the twist of the story is that math doesn't love me back. But that doesn't matter. as long as I love my math, I can do it. So sometimes days do not come at you the way you expect them, and sometimes they may even change your attitude. I remember when Dad went to be with the Lord, I was challenged. I don't think I anticipated the pain and the challenge that I could be going through for losing him to for I'll say losing him to the Lord. But I never thought I'd anticipate that. And sometimes I'll talk to Plamedy and I'll react in a way that was not appropriate. And I want to make an important point here. Do not allow your pain or your bad experience become a reason to change who you are. And I remember so many times I caught myself maybe not talking to Plamedy right, or maybe being aggravated about little things. And I told her, I was like, man, I realize what this pain is doing to me. But I want you to talk to me every time you see me doing something wrong. And I want everybody around me to hold me at the same standard. It's part of experience. It's painful. It's so painful that in all honesty, sometimes I still find myself crying about it today. But I do not want that experience to make me a person that I'm not. The second thing that John Maxwell says about bad experience is that nobody likes them. I can promise you that. I'm one of them. Do you enjoy bad experiences? If you do, then I hope you can start planning on them. But I know most of us do not want to have a bad experience, a flat tire, a crash in the plane, or losing money, or things of that nature, being stolen, someone breaking your house. Nobody anticipate that. And this third thing it talks about bad experiences, that few people make bad experience into positive experience. And this is what I was saying about earlier. I choose to have good days and great days. I refuse to have bad days because I know even bad days are just good days in disguise. And John Zig Ziglar used to say one thing: expect the good, prepare for the worst, capitalize whatever happens to you. Expect the good, prepare for the worst, but whatever happens to you, learn to capitalize on it.
Yeah, and just in that point, when he says like if few people make bad experiences positive experiences, in this case, he's trying to separate it. He's trying to remove the correlation that people have put on bad experiences and negativity.
That's a good
Not
point.
just
Yep.
yeah, not just because something bad happened to you that thing is actually negative. Something we have to actually put in mind constantly.
I love that.
And all the time.
That's profound.
And we shouldn't be taking things. We shouldn't be taking it personal. I think like for anybody who has actually learned anything about Buddhism, where Buddhism is talking about the universality of suffering.
Going through life painless.
Yeah, painless. Like we all suffer. We
Mhm.
all go through all those, like a lot of suffering that we experience,
But then they say what
and
create that pains is the attachment that we have to the experiences.
that we have to those experiences,
Mm,
and, and it's that. So we cannot be taking them always
mm,
as something negative, or as the world is against us,
mhm,
or as no. We have to be finding positivity
mm,
in those bad experiences.
mhm,
That's the only way we actually grow, and it's the only way we actually become successful.
mm. All right,
An
and we
example,
go ahead.
yeah, just to wrap this up,
Mhm,
you cannot change the past. You cannot change that experience that has already happened.
mm,
And even if you dwell on it, even if you cry as much as you can cry,
mm.
it won't change that.
Yep.
But something he say here, he says success in life comes not, in his quoting Warren G. Lester.
Mm,
He says success in life comes not from holding a good hand, but in playing a poor hand well.
mm.
When life gives you lemon, make lemonade.
Out of it.
That's
That's one of my favorite
that's
quotes.
as simple as
That-
it is. That's actually a classic quote in America.
that's definitely one of my favorite one. It's always easy to say until really life hands you lemons and you
True.
try to make lemonade out of it. So don't wait until it happens before you start doing it. It's the best time to do it is now. Now I'll end up with just citing up the points that he talks about here about how to turn your pain into gain. He said life is not the way it's supposed to be. It is the way it is. The way you cope up with it is what makes the difference. And John Maxwell here is quoting Virginia Satir. Life, it is what it is. It's the way you deal with it that makes the difference. And John Maxwell also says that to a large degree in life, you get what you expect. Not always, but most of the time. So why would you always accept the worst? Expect the worst. So that again goes into developing a positive stand, developing a positive attitude, always expecting the best. Prepare for the worst, but always expect the best. The second thing he talks about turning your pain into gain is embracing and developing your creativity. How do you and that the quote that Adam just talked about here, your life has handed you lemons. Use your creativity about using those lemons to turn them into a lemonade. A lot of great sellers books out there were actually written out of the pain and experiences of some people, the things that they went through and decided, you know what, I can write about this, and this can actually be a story that can encourage someone in the future. One time I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. I think it was Zeph that I was talking to, my young brother Zeph Jose. I was talking to him, and we had gone through something. I think in Nairobi, we had gone through a lot of struggle, and at the end of it, when I moved here and he finished up his degree, I was like, man, this experience has taught us so much that we can actually write books about it. And just choosing to always look alive in a positive way. The third, fourth, and fifth point. The third point it talks about embracing the value of bad experiences. What can you learn from your bad experience? I know someone is probably saying they're nothing. Yeah, there's probably a lesson that you can learn from your bad experience. The fourth one he talks about is say make good changes after learning from bad experiences. Your choices always lead to either a pain of discipline or a pain of regret. The choices you make today will decide whether tomorrow you're going to say, okay, I'm going through the pain of going to the gym and accomplishing and achieving what I want to achieve, or I'm going through the pain of not going to the gym and being the way that I do not want to be. And the last one, which I think is one of the most important one, and we'll probably talk about it when we talk about Brian Tracy's book, No Excuses. It says take responsibility. Take responsibility. I love what Adam says. A bad experience does not have to be a negative experience. It can be bad all it wants. Life happens to us, and sometimes we do not choose the things that happen to us. But what is your responsibility? You may not have any responsibility at all at what regarding what has happened to you. Someone came and robbed you, you probably don't have any responsibility. Someone came and killed a loved one, you probably don't have any responsibility over that. But you know what responsibility you have over? Is your attitude. is your response. How are you going to respond to that? Are you going to take vengeance? Are you going to forgive? Are you going to love them more? Are you going to do something more positive regarding that? So, regardless of what it is that you are going through, regardless of what has happened to you, are you taking responsibility, or are you saying, the world is going to the end and I don't want to deal with any of this? It's somebody's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's the government fault. It's the IRS fault. It's always the IRS fault. Are you blaming someone, or are you taking full responsibility for what you're going through? Adam?
Yes. So you have to be actually able. One of the things that he actually even mentioned here in that is say a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important when you are making good changes after learning from bad experiences. Is that just because there seems to be a dead end over there, or in America, since the roads are always under construction, just because there's
especially in Texas,
telling you that part is under construction, it doesn't mean there's no detour. There's detour. Just find the detour and you reach your destination.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what I have for the end.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we are going to leave you with today. Remember one thing: regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of what is happening to you right now, are you taking responsibility over your attitude? And if you had responsibility over what happened, are you accepting your responsibility? And what are you learning from these bad experiences? What are you learning from your bad decisions? What are you learning from your bad choices? What are you learning from everything that has happened to you? Take that. Take your loss with you, but don't dwell on it. Take your pain with you, but don't dwell on it, regardless of what has happened to you. And some of this pain are so painful that sometimes it's hard to explain when you haven't been through it. But the reality is that if you cannot change it today, there's one thing you have control over: you. There's something you have control over, it's your experience. There's something you have control over, it's your attitude. There's something you have control over, it's your response and your reaction. It's with that we believe in you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for having stuck with us here for another hour and a half for this podcasting, Unbounded Growth. As always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to email us at info@theunboundedgrowth.com. Again, our email is info@theunboundedgrowth.com. We are also on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram if you are on there to stay up to date with all our notifications. We are on YouTube. If you are listening to us on YouTube, do not forget to click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to always keep up with all our notifications. And of course, if you are listening to us on any of the podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon Music, or whatever you're listening to us on, let us know. Write to us. Tell us where you're listening to us from, what you're learning from us. We definitely love to hear from you. Again, remember, this is our first season. We run up to 15 episodes, and after that, we take a little break. We're about 3 weeks, and we get into the second episode. We appreciate and always value your feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful remainder of your week, and as always, God bless you.